What is going on, everyone? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday indeed. Hello, Jacob. Hello, community. How is everyone today? Hopefully well. Hope your week's going up to speed, Jacob. We have quite a few questions today. So thanks for being here to field them all.
Yeah, very grateful for the community showing up. I see that Wednesdays at 5:30 Eastern are just as popular as Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern. So great to see everyone here. I'm sure that there are plenty of questions from the community. I'm excited to answer as many as we can get to over the course of the next hour. Thank you all for making the time. And yeah, without further ado, let's dive right into it.
Let's do it. Before we start that, let's just go over the game plan. We'll be tuning in via this Office Hours voice channel that you're in, and you'll be chatting in the general channel, and then I'll be opening up the Office Hours channel for you to just field questions to us once we get through this list from the previous night. All right, with that, let's get on to the first one. One Crypto Zobel asks, any hints on the next website or tech improvement we can expect? Next UX improvement?
I think the next thing you'll probably see is the update to the gifting restrictions. So we're going to keep what those details are private until we release it. But that is what I would say comfortably is coming next. And that could be coming as soon as the next few days.
That's exciting. All right. I'm Josh asks, does Dapper currently have the rights to use in-game audio on moments? If yes, when can we expect to see that feature added? So my understanding that is it's potentially on our radar that we currently aren't able to use those at this very moment, but it's certainly something that we're exploring.
Yeah, exactly. No further comment there. You got it right.
All right. We have another Josh. So we have I'm Josh, then we have Josh right after asking a question. Do you guys have any info or details on Hardcourt that can be shared with us? Potentially any possibilities of the gameplay at all? Anything we can share with the community and kind of get them excited about?
Yeah, we're about to start some very early testing with a very kind of select few of lucky peeps. But what I would say to it is that the people we want to test this game with first are those that are not familiar with NBA Top Shot and aren't collecting Top Shot moments on our site. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Uh, Basically, we want to make sure that the game itself is good. And the best way to know if the game is good, if someone who doesn't have any vested interest in it being good agrees that it's good. So if we test the game with people that haven't yet played or used NBA Top Shot, and they give glowing reviews to the gameplay, then we know we're in good shape. If we tested it with our community here, there would be a kind of confirmation bias that the community here really wants the game and they're going to automatically, from day one, enjoy the game because it gives utility to the moments in their collection. But we want to have a really kind of thorough and kind of scientific approach to getting testing and data on it. So that's kind of our strategy. Now, I say that with full cognizance that the community here is really excited about the game, but I think we want to be really authentic to that process of getting the right data, getting the right feedback, and then when we're at a position and in a place that we think that the game is meeting our standards to share with the community here, you all will be the first to hear about it. So we're really excited. We've been making some interesting tweaks behind the scenes around it as we get prepared for our kind of initial testing. But rest assured, it's going to be an amazing game when we launch it, and we're really excited. I've said it before. I'll repeat it here because I know that not everyone in the community is present for all of the streams. But I would look at Hardcourt as more of a arcade style game than one of the kind of title legacy basketball video games. And by that I mean you can think of the players on your team as kind of a shell, and the moments from your collection are the equivalent of a sword and shield that help power up your team. So, for example, you could take a center that's very dominant in the post, and you could marry that player with a moment from Steph Curry or Duncan Robinson, for example, and amplify their shooting abilities. So I kind of anticipate that different collectors are going to have different ways that they go about fielding their roster in the game and being able to play up different strengths. I think long term, my hope is that it gets to a similar place to where, you know, Super Smash Bros is almost where some gamers are best playing with Link and some are best playing with Kirby. I want to get to a point with hardcore where maybe some collectors are best with fielding a lineup of steals moments and others are best fielding a lineup of handles moments, so to speak. But of course, this is very early speculation, and I'm just kind of providing a little bit of context of what I hope to see pie in the sky long term. But I think the most practical update for the community here is that we're prepping to test in the not too distant future.
Exciting news. I was personally big on Samus myself. I believe that was the cheapest character next to Star Fox. So yeah, I was one of those people, played it religiously. And if that's any comparison to hardcore at all, is maybe you know, the addictive gameplay, then you know, I imagine that's very nice to hear from a utility standpoint. All right, Phaedrus asks, the marketplace has been struggling for a while now, despite tremendous growth in signups and ongoing massive demand for drops. They're asking if it is a priority to nudge or incentivize collectors to become more on the collector end or investors rather than just trying to grab packs.
Yeah, we're certainly going to make a concentrated effort to continue to reinforce the intrinsic value of being a collector on Top Shot. These moments are special, they're cool, they're groundbreaking, and they're revolutionary. And they're all of those things with or without a dollar associated to the value. So what I really want our community to understand is becoming a collector and building your collection are going to be tent poles and pillars for you as a collector to gain access to things on Top Shot and potentially in the real world one day. So I think in the most practical sense, you can kind of consider the next step in that direction to be needing a certain criteria to get access to our next legendary drop. And that's just one example. But I think on another level, you know, we'll be introducing our next showcase contest soon. And that will have a fun theme that will get collectors kind of thinking about these moments and how they want to go about their collector strategy around those moments. So long story short is, yes, we're constantly monitoring and trying to think of ways to continue to reinforce the uniqueness and the value of these moments. But I also would like to reinforce that we're still in, like, I would say maybe the bottom of the first or the top of the second inning now, as far as all the things we can do with these moments. I saw Harrison Barnes earlier today tweeting out that he got one of his favorite moments in an infinite objects case, and he's going to hang that on his wall. So I think there are a lot of really cool things coming utility-wise, but certainly in the meantime, look, I think at the end of the day, this has always been a part of the NBA calendar that is a little awkward, right? Like post All-Star break, before the playoffs, you know, you have March Madness, which steals basketball's attention for a few weeks. You have opening day in baseball. I think this is very natural that people are not as kind of starved for NBA content right now because we're more than halfway through the season. I think as the playoffs come, there's a resurgence in excitement around the NBA calendar. And I'm not saying this specific to Top Shot. I think you can look at every metric from viewership in games. You can look at YouTube views around NBA tubers. It's a pretty natural pattern. That's not to say that we're being cavalier about it. We're constantly looking at ways that we can continue to improve the collector experience. But we look at Top Shot as a multi-generational project, and I think getting too kind of stir crazy in the day to day or the week to week of what moments and account values look like is kind of not seeing the forest through the trees.
Yeah, I mean, I would just continue enjoying the product. It is fun. It's a big community experience. You know, it's not just about buying and selling. There's so much more to that. If you just take a look at the community events channel on Discord, for example, or Twitter, there's just so much more going on. All the third-party community applications, the Swish Fantasy, Predict the Win, it just goes so much more beyond talking about the marketplace specifically. So just enjoy the experience. There's so much more to come for Top Shot. Like Jacob stated, it's multi-generational. We just talked about hardcore earlier. Um, there's a lot to be excited about. So with that, I'll move on to the next question. Eggboy91 asks, are you able to update the exact number of each moment that will be included in the pre-order packs, given how many will be issued now?
That's a good question that I actually don't know the answer to. And I'm not exactly sure if it's as straightforward as the question suggests. But I will take that feedback to the rightful stakeholders on the team and see what they think.
Thanks, Jacob. I'm going to read Jellen's question real quick and then see if I can potentially answer this on my own or just field it to you. The current tier system is a bit confusing. For example, a common tier moment can have a 1000 limited edition count, and a rare tier moment can have a 2021 limited edition count. Are there plans to indicate why a moment may belong in one tier more clear, or is a new tier system going to be introduced? So we do have a blog that touches base on that. We pretty much scaled it to go alongside, the rapid growth of our collector base. There was a point where 1,000 common moments may have made more sense, and 299 limited edition moments at a time. And now we're at a point where 2021 limited edition count rare moments make more sense because we've grown so much. So I know we potentially touched upon one additional rarity tier in a previous office hours discussion, Jacob, but I don't know if you have any additional insight.
Yeah, I think, well, let's first and foremost, let me share the link to that blog you're referring to, Usman, just so anyone that's curious has an opportunity to check it out. So bear with me one second as I pull it up and share in the channel. I think secondarily, the reality is that our audience is in a much different it's just in a much different place than where it had been before. We have hundreds of thousands of collectors, whereas in Series 1 we had maybe 10,000 collectors or 20. I don't remember the specifics. So naturally, we're going to have to kind of accommodate that demand with a slight increase in supply, certainly not proportional increase in supply, right? But what that will mean is that if you're confused about whether a moment is rare or common or legendary, you can always look at the marketplace. It's very easy to filter based on tier, and B, whether the moment has a very unique border, be it a rare border, a legendary border, or no border at all, signifying it being common. So I understand for a new collector why there might be some confusion, but I think the context is super important to better understand.
Yeah, definitely. Dollars and Cents has a question about baller status. They're asking if any updates and or changes to how points are accumulated or earned would be applied retroactively to a certain date. Maybe once this reflects a bit better and we have it working better than it currently is, would all those stuck points be unstuck and registered to their proper accounts?
A good question. So I don't have the specifics about that, but what I can say on a kind of macro level and more generally is we're constantly looking at ways to better the collector experience. And right now, one of the topics du jour is how do we discourage botting? How do we discourage multi-accounters? And one thing that we feel very confident about as a good North Star is re-emphasizing and refactoring baller status into our equation. So, for example, while like in the past, in recent drops, we've had, uh, you know, a restriction around who can enter based on what moments you have in your collection. We look at baller status as potentially a more viable path forward on that long term to determine which collectors should be eligible for certain drops. And the reason is it, again, reinforces the value of being a collector and not in a material kind of monetary sense, but in a you are a big part of this community. You are actively collecting and evaluating which types of moments you want to add to your collection. And we think that that will go a long way in kind of building a healthy community and building up a system that rewards our kind of genuine collectors in a way that's very cut and dry rather than maybe making uh, collectors feel like they have to scramble to do certain unclear tasks along the way to become eligible for things.
Yeah, definitely. And the mailman, if we didn't directly answer your question about anything being planned to help incentivize people to hold moments post challenges, yeah, we maybe touched upon that in the utility of hardcore or those third party community applications, or even the potentials of holding certain moments being exclusive to backdrops with, nothing certainly set in stone, but something that we toyed with the possibility of. And we always welcome the suggestions in our ideas forum. That's definitely been filled with quite amazing ideas. So thank you for that.
Usman, just to piggyback there, one other thing that I'm not sure we touched on in that, and not positive that the question was alluding to this, but one thing I want to make exceedingly clear to the community here is that moments that have historically been used in a challenge may and will be used in future challenges. We are aware that collectors feel like their moments used for challenges become worthless after they collect them and the challenge expires. And no moment on NBA Top Shot is worthless. These are all very meaningful moments, and especially ones that went into a challenge should be valued with esteem. And one way that we can reinforce that and make the community better understand that is that these moments that have once been in a challenge will be in other challenges going forward. So no collector should flip a moment thinking, oh, it's been used in a challenge before, therefore it will not be used in another challenge.
Yeah. JCats, you're asking, is there anything being done to get withdrawals for those who are stuck after completing the identity check process? So I imagine this is just more of a support question where you'd have to submit a ticket or follow through with the email that you receive in error. But if you're just talking about actually being stuck, meaning that you're waiting for a time frame that's been given, maybe the 21 to 40 days for the actual withdrawal clearance, or the 6 to 8+ week timeline. Um, I mean, just making sure you're following all the guidelines. You're not potentially using VPNs to circumvent anything. You're not making uh, shady off-market transactions. You're not potentially abusing the gifting system. There's also multi-accounts which play a factor, and we ask so many to consolidate to prevent that. So there's quite a few factors, but that's just kind of where we're at. We did indicate that we bolstered the team that checks these reviews and that they should be swifter in the future. It is still very manual, but that's just to ensure that we have that fiat checkout method available for Top Shot. And we have to be as safe as possible with, especially with something as prestigious as the NBA and all future products that Dapper Labs has.
Yeah, and I think this might be a good opportunity because I want to apologize to the community for something I phrased last week that was poorly worded and came off as pointing the finger. And so I want to clarify. We have a backlog that is well known in our community of people trying to gain access to withdrawals. We are working through that as quickly as possible. Just last week, we had about 14,000 new collectors gain access, and we anticipate that that number will continue to be similar in future weeks. And we're slowly but surely building up our collector base and our team to ensure that we can get more people access as soon as possible. Um, what I was more specifically talking about last week, when I may have said something not the most considerately, was there are a lot of collectors that are they have access to withdrawals, and their withdrawal processing time is taking a while. So this is after you gain access, you have to request your withdrawal. And for some collectors, it takes a while for that request to be processed. In the instances where that request is taking exceedingly long, we're talking about 4 weeks, however many weeks, right? In those instances, it means that our team is doing a thorough investigation of the account to check out any kind of behavior that looks kind of questionable. So that's kind of all I wanted to say on that front, and it came out way more defensively than I meant it to sound. We certainly have a backlog that is on us to clear up, and not making excuses, but we had hundreds of thousands of collectors join us in a very concentrated amount of time, and our team is trying to scale up to that demand as quickly as possible. We will continue to be transparent and continue to provide updates as they come, as we gain more collectors access to withdrawals. I just wanted to kind of set the record straight and apologize because you all deserve as much kind of communication on this front as possible as we kind of work out that deficit and try to make up ground on something that is certainly a backlog.
Yeah, thank you for touching base on that, Jacob. And we know the community really appreciates you. If something came off wrong, it certainly wasn't the intent. We only mean the best, and we both apologize in case we come off the wrong way, especially in sensitive situations. So just know it wasn't anything that we intended. As for the shady off-market activity, I just saw a comment, and I meant, maybe people selling Dapper credits, which is very obvious. So our compliance team, they have a process, and they look through each transaction. If they see something that needs clarity, they'll act on that, and that's what I meant. So Charles Packley asks, are there any chances of challenge rewards being something other than moments, maybe moments that aren't sellable, future pack priority, lunch with Zion?
Um, yeah, I mean that last one's a funny wreck. Not not to my knowledge, not in my purview right now. Potentially down the road for sure. But I think, as I've said before, and will continue to say every week, we are in crawl before we walk and walk before we run territory. And that doesn't mean when there are inbound opportunities that come our way, such as Mike Conley wanting to narrate his moment, we can do things like that that are closer to running than crawling. But as far as kind of building out something different, I think right now our focus is on making sure that challenges are fun and feel like an accomplishment for a collector, with or without the monetary kind of assessment of whether the challenge was worth it for me or not. But are you excited to collect a challenge reward that only X number of members of the community were able to also get?
Yeah. CJ. So CJ loves the design on our moments, and big props to our team. Shout out to Alan, Courtney, and some others. However, they're asking if there are potential alternatives to the aesthetic of the moments at all. Any visuals that we're exploring to um, potentially even accentuate things more. I don't know, like fireworks or just things that we can entertain beyond just the clips themselves.
Yeah, I think in the future there's certainly things we can look into. You know, crossover partnerships with artists, things like that, animators, whatever. But we're still in series two of what I anticipate to be hundreds of series over the years. So, we're probably not going to. Again, this is an example of running before we walk in some areas.
Right. Baller Throwdown is asking, will the Series 1 moments that are still in the NBA Top Shot profile get burned? The only one that I'm aware of are the rares in the Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals packs that were unsold. But they're asking, if not, how is that fair to the people who already own them? Because by increasing the supply, you decrease the value of their moments. So this was already something that was stated well ahead of time. There are very many blogs about it. This was communicated with everyone else. We understand if you may have, unfortunate marketplace attributions to your purchases, but um, this was always the plan to get them in the ecosystem if we're talking about distribution. And we've been clear that it was just the Eastern Conference Finals, the rare ones, and the Western Conference Finals moments that were being burned at some point when we have the capability to do so. They're also asking, Jacob, what type of precedent does that set where you can always just maybe go into the vault at some random time to pass out old moments?
Yeah. So as you touched on, Newsman, we've kind of outlined that we are sitting on some series one moments that we plan to release. I'm gonna go to office hours and post the link for anyone that is still curious. Um, what we're gonna see here is there are plenty of moments that we still need to reintroduce into the ecosystem from series one. The reason why they were not released is due to uh, kind of outstanding circumstance that weren't within our control based on timing and based on partners. So we are going to release these. We have our plan in place to release these. They are not going to all be dumped into the market at once. We're going to be responsible and thoughtful about it. To Usman's point, the moments that we've committed to burning, we will burn. Those are the rare Eastern and Western Conference Finals moments that were not at the time. Uh, the moments from those packs that were Series 1 base set moments, those will be released. Those are not going to get burnt. We're only burning the Eastern and Western Conference rare moments that weren't purchased out of packs. So I think the community can anticipate an announcement and an update around what we're doing with Series 1 moments by the end of this month, hopefully sooner. And uh, again, we can only stress that we've given it a lot of thought and we're going to do something that I think the community in general is going to be intrigued by. I think there's going to be uh, an added component to Top Shot that we'll be introducing. So I don't say that to start the speculators and the conspiracy theorists, because I know that that might happen as a result of this. But I'll say stay tuned. Sometime this month, you will have an update, and all of your questions today will be answered, or at least a lot of them. I can't guarantee all of them, but we'll try to answer those in piecemeal for any questions that arise as a result of our plan and our announcement.
Great. Steph, hey, Steph. So this one's about bots. They're asking if we have an updated number of bot accounts that Top Shot had shut down.
Yeah, no updated number, but we I can say with confidence that last weekend there were 40 accounts that we shut down. Um, and every day we're investigating and we're building up a policy that makes it easier for us to kind of uh, investigate, identify, and disable pretty swiftly. Um, Now, what I'll say, I know that today uh, there was a great newsletter that kind of broke down the Vegas Dave situation. And all I'll say there, I understand the community very much wants us to go after all of the associated accounts and weed them out of the system. And we will do that in due time. Like anyone that we are identifying as kind of a nefarious actor that's abusing the platform and hurting the community, we will take requisite steps. But what I'll say uh, to the community here is anyone, as you've heard for weeks now, the accounts that are having delays in their ability to process their withdrawals. And this is, again, I'm just going to distinguish. We have access to withdrawals, which has nothing to do necessarily with kind of your off market behavior. And then processing those withdrawals, which very much has kind of association with what you've done off market. So in this Vegas Dave case, you can safely anticipate that all of the accounts implicated are going to have a very difficult time trying to justify their behavior and their actions to our fraud team. So how do I like those accounts are certainly not going to get off scot free, and they're going to have a difficult time. Whether we kind of go through the actions of banning them today or doing that on our schedule that will permit for kind of thorough process and have all policies kind of hammered out. We'll make that an internal decision and evaluate the pros and cons. But rest assured that those bad actors are not going to be able to get last laugh here, so to speak. They're going to have a hard time trying to use the system.
Great. Big Game James asks, so Top Shot has shared some details about future plans, but more details in an official format about maybe the short, medium, long-term roadmap. So we're speaking about roadmaps, and they believe that it would help collectors and reduce the amount of speculation. Guessing based off a few comments by Top Shot management, office hours of podcast. I think with us being in beta, at least this early, things are certainly subject to change. We're still tinkering with what works, what doesn't, and adjusting. So me personally, I don't see how a roadmap could potentially be committed to. I know there's certainly variances that people would like to see, maybe not committing to hard dates and just the potential of having something. But again, that would also change people's investment strategies, I believe, and set maybe not the precedent that we're looking for. But maybe Jacob can touch a bit on that as well.
Yeah. I think we had a discussion today actually. And we can kind of quantify things on Top Shot based into 3 or 4 different categories, right? We have the known knowns, which are very few and far between. There are very few things we know for sure. There are known unknowns. There are things that we're hoping to do and we're waiting on contingency. And that could be something along the lines of player X, Y, or Z gets hurt, or timing doesn't work out for reasons A, B, or C. And then there are the unknowns. And that is, we cannot anticipate things that are getting turned. So what we've decided on internally and still need to kind of figure out the right process and delivery to the community on is how do we get the known knowns to our community in a faster capacity, in a fair capacity, and how do we mitigate known unknowns, or at least provide some context so the community knows kind of what contingencies are as we're kind of working through those unknowns. And then the unknown unknowns, that just provide visibility. There are going to be things that are totally out of our control. So I think the feedback is fair, and we will certainly provide kind of answers there.
Jacob, I know we touched about the pre-orders, but I think that was more specific to the moments, and I do apologize if we had already touched upon this earlier in the conversation, but do we maybe have an update on the date or announcement about the pre-order packs from last week?
Yeah, so we're gonna send an email today, giving an update. You have our word that you will receive those packs by April 16th. So next Friday at the latest, and hopefully sooner.
Right? Feel free to show them off in talking moments, of course, once you get them. Just don't list them for sale. And, well, I mean, at least advertise them for sale over here in Discord. Any updates in plans regarding VR accessibility? I know you guys coded for a capability, so wondering if there was an update there at all.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think this would be something maybe far down the line if we did have the potential, or something potentially a third party uh, member of the community or whoever would like to reach out, potentially uh, toy with the process and bring something about. Just as those digital signatures a couple moderators are working on would be. So not an official capacity yet, but something that would be entertaining to tour the possibilities online. Um, Jacob, okay, so I know support tickets they have varied response times based, or at least turnaround times based on what the case indicates. It could be manual reviews, could be payments, deposits gone wrong, whatever. But what he's asking, what the actual time frame for the average support ticket is right now for a response.
Yeah, we're looking at about a week. Now, certainly, response times in general, it's a dangerous game to put a generic time frame on a ticket, because there are some tickets that the question asked is a very easy answer, and then there are some that require investigation and a deeper audit and get escalated, and those take longer. So right now we're looking at about a week. But certainly, not every ticket is uh, equal as far as timeline to get it answered.
Yeah. Jacob, for the near future, would we be able to give any insight on pack price ranges before drops actually happen? They're asking if we can give them a chance to prepare if need be. So do you think we have any potential plans to increase what our last rare drop went for, or last legendary drop, or maybe even adjust lower anytime soon? Or do you think they should just be sticking to the same kind of standard that the last few releases have brought about?
Yeah. I think the previous releases is good for a ballpark. I don't want to say definitively that it's going to stay in that exact kind of number frame, but the ballpark should be pretty similar across commons and then rares and then legendaries, and to be a little more explicit there. Commons we anticipate will continue to be, you know, anywhere from $10 to $30, where rares will continue to be somewhere between $100 and $350. I don't know, something in that range. And then legendaries can be around $1,000. I would say 1,000 is kind of, Hollow Icon was 999. I think that's probably what we're gonna stick with for a little bit, at least. And then, I really don't want to encourage behavior in the community of like scrambling for decisions, because there's no guarantee that you as a collector will be eligible for that next drop, right? Like as we keep on reinforcing, we want to make these drops part of the collector experience. And by that, I mean you as a collector need to reach certain thresholds in order to be qualified. And, um, you know, that's going to be the path long term. I think like one thing that I'm cognizant of is if we put together a moment threshold of you need to own X number of moment to enter this drop, immediately after the drop, there's going to be kind of before the drop, there's going to be a little bit of a bubble around those moments. And then immediately after the drop, there's going to be a sell off. So, one thing that we really are mindful of and cognizant of is how do we disincentivize people from flipping moments immediately after the drop? And we think that long term, we can look at kind of holding and building up your collection as an added benefit to getting into more drops. So, I'll be fairly vague on it today, but you'll have more kind of details about what that could look like in the near future.
Yeah, this was definitely taken into careful consideration by both the team and monitoring community suggestion. What was that word even? Suggestions and frustrations, maybe if they missed out on multiple packs in a row. So we're really trying to reward collectors and provide them more accessibility. Because ultimately we do want you to be able to collect and score that awesome pack. One thing I want to note, for people that do deposit ahead of time, via their Dapper balance for these drops, I would advise you don't do that, especially for just the chance to get a rare pack or a legendary pack, just in case there is the case that you potentially miss out. Um, you can easily just pay with card, just the same. And it avoids the frustrations of having the Dapper balance that you only intended to use towards that pack. So I would just be wary of that. And if you do speculate that there will be a pretty crazy drop in the future, I would keep that in mind.
Now, one was I'm going to go off script a little bit. One question that I think we've seen a good amount in recent weeks to touch on is collectors that have been blocked from being able to make purchases. And there are a bunch of different buckets here, of course. But the one that I want to touch on are those that are being temporarily locked out from being able to purchase when they're trying to buy. And the most common reasons for this are going to be using a VPN, using multiple accounts, using multiple cards, and the last one, which has been the most common one for good collectors getting falsely flagged in the system, is attempting multi purchases. So in the instance where you are gunning for the lowest price moment and you have a failed purchase because someone else was able to get it, and you keep on trying to buy the lowest price of a single moment and it keeps on failing. I don't have the specifics about at what point you're going to get triggered and blocked. I've been told on good authority that block is a temporary one and you can come back later and it should be okay. But that is a fairly common issue.
Yeah. And just to touch on the credit card point, we do mean those shared credit cards that don't necessarily have your name tied onto your account, right? No. Jacob, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. Gotcha. Um, Korean Streak 91, they state that the primary Top Shot experience is minute by minute, hour by hour, but they would like to know what the ambition and goal is for the daily experience in, let's say, July or October 2021. Do we have any? I know we don't want to speak about roadmaps necessarily or timeframes, but what do we envision? Some of the advancements to look like by that time. And that is, quite a few months away.
Well, I don't say this cavalierly because I know that it's the number one topic in our community and will continue to be a big topic until the backlog is solved. But withdrawals is definitely something that I wake up with. What's the right way to put it? Feeling a responsibility to you all to kind of continue to make strides in the right direction there. That's something that has been, you know, something for a little while now that we've known and identified as a top priority, and we're moving as quickly as possible. So I think to put an optimistic spin on the question, Usman, I look forward to the kind of the days of us laying the pavement, laying the foundation to have a faster process to giving our collectors access to withdrawals will play a big role. And I saw an interesting Twitter thread from a great collector in the community, one of the data scientists, Max, I believe his name. Yeah, Max Minsker. He put out a great thread yesterday, and let me share it. But what I would say, and I see that he is listening in as I go to his Twitter, which is always cool to see. But what he was essentially talking about is it doesn't behoove us as a business to have a cap on the outflow withdrawals. It's not in our best interest for that negative perception, and it's not in our best interest for collectors to feel constrained in what they can do. And a lot of collectors, I think, have rightfully pointed out that they are apprehensive about putting more money into Top Shot before they have a faster path to be able to withdraw. So I think like the conspiracies around it are unfounded. If there weren't as many things at stake around getting withdrawals done correctly and compliantly, this process would be a lot faster. But I think the reality is we're doing it by the book because we look at the opportunity here as a generational opportunity to transform what blockchain can be. And I don't say this to give ourselves a pat on the back, but one of the real reasons why it's taking as long is because we are trying to do this as by the book and compliantly with authorities as possible, right? Because there's a lot here that we need to get right, and needless to say, there's a lot of risk involved in overseeing such a big community where there are people that are kind of getting into Top Shot for the wrong reasons, have money that they're trying to clean. So I think like that's how I would kind of frame it. We are making really great progress. We're in a much better place today than we were a few weeks ago. Um, Lots of accounts again every week, every day are gaining access. But yeah, we are looking at this as an urgent priority. And I want to kind of then circle back to Usman's question of later on in 2021 where we think we'll be. I think we're getting closer to a place where this backlog doesn't feel so overwhelming, and then we can start marketing again, and we can start doing all these different great growth activations, and we can start, you know, resurfacing things like showcase contests, and that might come sooner than we solve the withdrawals, because we think that showcase contests are awesome and we want you all to be able to enjoy Top Shot for all that, all the potential that it can be. So I think when we look at what we're going to be doing this summer, certainly after the season, I think you can safely anticipate that run it back sets are going to be a big part of our off-season strategy, right? We have 74 years today of NBA archives to go through. We certainly have lots of legends of yesterday that have not yet made debuts on Top Shot. So I think like we're in a pretty good position right now. We are going by the book, and to just kind of one last time reiterate around the withdrawal situation, the hiccups and the pain points along the way, and the slow process, all of those are kind of necessary steps to being compliant. So there are a lot of marketplaces that are kind of setting up an unfair expectation of how fast it can be, and they're not necessarily compliant. And this is not to point out any other business, every business has their own kind of thought process and cost benefit analysis. For us, we have decided and determined, in order for us to be the multi-generational platform that we anticipate being and strive to be, we need to do things by the book. We need to be on good terms with authorities, and we need to be in a position where there's no kind of looking at Top Shot as that kind of uh, I'm trying to think of the right. We can't have Top Shot be abused for the wrong reasons. That's kind of how I would put it. Sorry for the ramble there, but I hope that conveys kind of where our heads are at.
Yeah, no, I think community is more than happy to have such valuable content. So I always appreciate you taking the time to offer that. Two roles. They're asking about the confirmation on Canadian bank withdrawals. They're asking if there's an update. When are they potentially likely to arrive? Maybe they heard somewhere from staff that they were looking at sometime in April. I know they always have the option to withdraw via USDC if you are looking for that route. But do we have any additional insight on Canadian bank withdrawals at all?
Yeah, for Canadian and UK banks, we're looking at sometime in April, I anticipate. We gave that update last office hours, but never hurts to repeat it. Sometime in April would be my anticipation for both of them. If it spills to early May, that's certainly a possibility, but our goal is to get it out for April.
That is exciting, as I believe it's one of the most asked questions, not only on the feature suggestion form, but in office hours. So very excited to hear about that. I'm sure it can ease tension for a lot of our collectors. Scalabrine, not the real one, are you? Instead of a random serial number for challenge rewards, has Top Shot ever considered having the number one serial number go to whoever has the highest average serial number for all required moments, etc.? That might certainly be a suggestion for the feature upvote forum. Um, I'm not sure of the feasibility around that as a mercy timer kind of thing, but it is certainly an interesting prospect. So something that maybe we're completely unsure of, at least on my end. Um, Zeus asks, will we be able to stake our moments for increased utility or potential flow rewards? Maybe even, I'm going to say baller status perks at all, Jacob?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yeah. How confident do you feel about answering questions about potential staking on your moments and the additional utility it would provide and what that may kind of entail? They're speaking about the potential to stake your Top Shot moments for maybe flow rewards, but I myself am maybe presenting baller status perks.
Um, yeah, I would say that um, I've heard the phrase staking being thrown around internally for things like this. For timeline on that or actual promises that it ever happens, I'm not in a position to say that it's likely. I think we'll investigate and we'll see what it looks like. I think our team is excited about that possibility for those uninitiated to crypto. I would recommend looking up staking. I would recommend looking up proof of stake, which is how flow is powered. Be butchering that phrasing. I am not a crypto native, though. Slowly but surely getting my footing there. But yeah, that's about what I would say there. It's been talked about internally as kind of wouldn't this be really cool idea, but it has not been executed on, and certainly is not something I would anticipate in the year 2021 or anytime in the near future.
Yeah. And even if you feel maybe neglected by your, suggestion, there are a lot of amazing suggestions on that forum that we allow you to, pitch your ideas and feedback to. May not be a 2021 thing, may not even be 2022, but it is very, very valuable to have for the future because there are so many features, additional utility we'd like to implement, and that is certainly one of the best gauges to go off of that. And so we always welcome those kind of posts and um, being as detailed with your feedback as possible, and that gives the team better insight on how to maybe potentially implement it down the line. So thank you all for doing that. Jacob, Galley is talking about signups, and I believe I can merge two together. People may have the intention that we're purposefully suppressing users on Top Shot, whether it's for something regarding marketplace value or whatever. And I would like to tie that in with what we see the amount of signups being allowed, the potential to increase anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that might be uh I think the phrasing there isn't accurate, maybe. I don't think there's any active suppression of signups. I think there's if we take a step back, there is 100% cognizant that we have a backlog of support issues to take care of for our existing community, and we are prioritizing that. And there's also an awareness that there are hundreds of millions of NBA fans around the world, and Top Shot should be and will be a fun and uh, awesome experience for most of them, right? We want this to go out to a lot of people around the world, and overwhelming majority of people that have come to Top Shot have enjoyed the collecting experience. And I think, we're still, and needless to say, we still have work to do as far as catching up on the backlog on support and then getting us to a place where collectors can come in, collect, deposit, withdraw, all that good stuff, and we will get there. And I don't mean to suggest that we won't turn on the marketing engine before all of our problems are fixed. I don't know if that's realistic, but I think we're still working to get ourselves in a position where we can better handle another massive surge. I also don't necessarily know if now is the right time to be doing that, if the playoffs are the right time to be doing that, or if next season's the right time to be doing that, right? There's a lot of different factors in place. What I will say is that we're not artificially suppressing signups. We were doing very minimal marketing when we went viral, right? That was all a lot was 9% organic, people talking about us not paying. If we believe me, if we were paying for some of those articles or those talking points, we definitely would have framed the conversation much closer to the collector experience than the market, right? Like, I think that it set up an unfair expectation for a lot of people reading those articles that Top Shot was an instant gold mine and a get rich quick scheme. And that was never the intention from Dapper Labs to have that be the messaging conveyed. Um, Now, I will say that, there was a time in 2020 where we were very bullish about getting in on the ground floor and being an early adopter. And all of that still rings true today, but where the marketplace was in October, November, December is very different from where collectors were coming in February. So I want to reconcile that with acknowledgement that a lot of collectors came in when the market was super, super hot, um, and some of those collectors right now are feeling down on their luck as a Top Shot collector. But I do think long term we're going to have a lot of interesting things that we do for our community, and to be more specific, I think that uh, there will come a time when we are kind of past this initial growing pain and in a position to actually start, doing marketing on our terms, getting the messaging we want out there to the masses. Because I think there's a misconception that everyone that would be interested in Top Shot has already signed up for it. I think there is an overwhelming majority of NBA fans that may have heard about Top Shot but haven't taken the time to look into it. So I I kind of reject that premise that everyone who would be interested has signed up, because I don't think that's close to the truth.
No, not at all. And there's certainly a lot of factors that would help. Once obviously marketing may potentially kick off, or not may potentially, because it will at some point. But when it does, once we have everything in order, once we start motioning towards out of beta, uh, I imagine the sky's the limit. So a lot to be hopeful for. We're not even down year one. I mentioned this a lot, but public beta started in October 1st. We had, I think, 2,500 collectors or so at the end of December, and now we're at hundreds of thousands. So, there's a lot to be excited for, and just based off of everything that we mentioned along the utility side and maybe potential future plans for Top Shot, along with Michael Jordan being on board as an investor, along with some of those other names. I think the community have quite a lot to be excited about. Just enjoy the ride, enjoy collecting your favorite plays, moments, interacting with the community, and just really relishing the experience and making friends and enjoying the social experience. There might be hiccups in terms of site stability and things like withdrawals and all that, but that will just be a short-term thing and something that we're already actioning on trying to resolve. So um, with that, we are nearing the time Jacob and myself usually exit, but if you're up to field any more questions, just let me know.
Yep, I've got another 3 or 4 minutes in me, so happy
Perfect.
to answer some. And maybe we could sprinkle in an NBA question there too.
Well, then let me look for that. And in the meantime, I will just ask you an existing question, maybe from a library. For moments being reused in other challenges, does that only apply to Series 2 or Series 1 as well? Not that this plan isn't that it's ironed out already, because I myself don't know. But in Series 1, there was a rule that was stated that once a moment has been used in a challenge, that it may no longer be used in future challenges.
Yeah, I would need to see where that was in the copy. I don't believe that's the case. I would say that moments can certainly be reused in challenges, and no promises about whether the first time that happens will be a Series 1 or a Series 2, but I think it's fair game for everyone in the community to anticipate that there will be, at some point, moments from any series that can be recirculated as a component of a challenge. Um, and one thing that maybe we don't do a great job of, and we can certainly improve, is we are very much in beta, and we say that a lot, and that gets the eye rolls from the community. And understandably, it becomes a line that gets tired after however many months we've been in beta. But I think one of the things of beta, aside from the product catching up and the customer support team catching up, one of the things in beta is us kind of figuring out what makes sense, how this is a dynamic marketplace, and a lot of decisions are being made with kind of assumptions that have not come from Top Shot. So I would look at, library. I haven't actually seen where that is in copy about challenge reward not being recycled. I can say for certain that Series 2 moments will be fair game to be reused in future moments or future challenges, even if they've been used before.
All right. Well, now we have an NBA question. Jacob, not necessarily a Spurs fan, but what do you think about all of the Spurs young stars being left off the top 25 young players by ESPN? I certainly believe that may have been a controversial list, as I've seen quite a few of the Twitter threads and maybe my own opinions. But what do you think?
I think it's okay. I actually haven't. I don't have ESPN Plus, so I haven't seen the full list. I saw that Tyrese Halliburton was left off, and if Halliburton's being left off, I have trouble thinking of a Spur that's more deserving than him. Now, granted, I haven't seen what the bottom of that list looks like, but the Spur that I'm the highest on is probably Keldon Johnson long term. I really like Keldon's game. I think he's a great two-way player, and I think he's super portable, could play on pretty much any team successfully. But yeah, I mean the Spurs have a nice little foundation. I liked the sell pick. I think they're a solid team. Uh, but they're kind of in a position where I think for so many years people took for granted how uniquely special Tim Duncan was. And then, of course, they were able to get Parker and Manu. But I think more saliently, it happened again with Kawhi, where people thought Kawhi was Kawhi because of the Spurs, when in reality, the Spurs were the Spurs because of Kawhi for a few years there. So, I think there's no one on the Spurs that strikes me as a generational talent like a Kawhi or a Duncan. And, that the Spurs are not impervious to this. Every team kind of needs that kind of generational talent to become a real championship contender. And we're seeing that with the Nuggets right now, right? They hit the jackpot with Jokic, and they've certainly made some other really nice picks along the way, be it Murray, be it Michael Porter Jr. Uh, the Gary Harris pick was a good pick, and that's turned into Aaron Gordon now. But it would all be for nothing if they didn't have Jokic, who was picked in the 40s. So for any team, there needs to be a little bit of luck or really aggressive tank to getting an elite pick. And even then there's luck involved. You all know me as a Knicks fan. There was a time not too long ago that I thought we were getting Zion, KD, and Kyrie Irving. And, we had the best odds in the lottery and we ended up with the third pick. And I'm pretty satisfied with RJ Barrett, but it's not the big three that I was hoping for that whole season. And it all comes down to luck.
Sorry, Jake, I think you may have cut out.
No, all good. I got time for one more.
All right, let's do it. Someone's asking us about both of our finals teams prediction. So why don't you kick that off?
I think Brooklyn has to be the prohibitive favorite right now. They are very much on fire and they're powering through with plenty of injuries. Then in the West, I have to admit, I was very I was watching the Nuggets last night, and I kind of like them as the hipster choice. Not that hipster, because I'm sure a lot of smart basketball fans are also seeing what they can do. But if not the Lakers, I kind of like Denver right now.
Denver, I was gonna say Denver. I mean, they look well primed. I believe Aaron Gordon was an excellent addition, and they already had a very stacked team. Michael Porter Jr. is already. He's been killing it alongside Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and so many others. Will Barton's also stepping up quite a bit. So that team is absolutely stacked. If the Lakers injury woes continue, I wholeheartedly believe it'll be the Nets versus the Nuggets, and I have no idea where to go from there because both teams are just absolutely stacked.
I'm going Nets, but Usman, I'm disappointed. I thought we were going to have a little bit of dissent there, but no, I think the West is still wide open. You could tell me today that the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Jazz, any of those four, I would say, will make the finals, and I wouldn't be super surprised. And even Phoenix, obviously the 2 seed right now, I kind of really like their team. I think DeAndre Ayton in the playoffs is going to be a factor. I think that he's kind of fallen under the radar because he doesn't have as much usage as he may have been anticipated to have as the first overall pick. But that guy runs the floor like a gazelle, and he's a giant, and he's one of very few guys around the league that can kind of body up Anthony Davis with similar levels of athleticism. Aiden's big critique early in his career was his defense was bad, and now he's in a position where his defense is above average. And I think in a playoff game where he's locked in and getting, called out by Chris Paul every time he messes up, I think he'll actually be in pretty good shape to be an impact defender. So, that's a cop out to point out all 5 teams in the West that are real contenders in my eyes. But, I think it won't be a cakewalk for the Lakers. Usman, I think you and I are watching enough Nuggets to recognize how much of a real threat they are. Now, what I will say, and I know he was so good in the bubble last year, but I'm still not fully ready to wrap my arms around Jamal Murray as, the number 2 player on a championship team. And that might be harsh. I know he's done plenty to show that he can be a fringe all-star, but that's the one concern I have with their team. If it was if Jamal Murray was Bradley Beal, and that's a huge if because they're very different players, then I would feel a little bit more confident about it. But that's kind of the one concern I have with them.
Yeah. I mean, just to add on to that, I think just seeing Jamal Murray's bubble play last season just made me a complete believer. He became my second favorite player after Damian Lillard. He was playing hobbled. He was scoring 50 a game alongside Donovan Mitchell in the first round, and taking the Lakers as far as they could go before he could simply just not continue on because of his injuries. But that man puts on a show, and he is very, very top shotable. I think he has what it takes for that championship caliber. But even if he doesn't, as a second, second go-to option, that Nuggets team is stacked again, and I believe they have all the pieces in place necessary to go all the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for the time. Really appreciate everyone coming by. We'll do this again on Friday. We're doing it twice a week now. I think you can safely anticipate that it will happen at this time on Tuesdays. So 5:30 Eastern Tuesdays, 2:30 Pacific. The reason we didn't do it yesterday is I actually got my vaccine yesterday or on Monday, and was feeling the side effects yesterday. But if you are eligible to get vaxxed, I highly recommend it. Go get vaxxed. Get yourself safe. Make yourself comfortable. And Usman is having his Jordan moment because I know that he got vaccinated yesterday, and he's hosting this today. So thank you for powering through, Usman.
Yeah, of course. And shout out to Mo as well. If you're in here, feel free to say what's up. But another community rep and MVP that's also on the same page. So, life is seemingly starting to get back to normal. Feels good. And I highly recommend. And then maybe y'all can kind of make yourself available to watch games in person. That sounds
right.
perfect.
Hopefully we'll do a Top Shot meetup at some point when it's safe for everyone to meet up.
That sounds super exciting, and I'm all up for it.
All right, team. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on Friday. In the meantime, happy collecting.
Have a great one all. Thanks as always, Jacob.